Good afternoon, everyone. Hope you're doing well. Welcome to another episode of BT Talks. We are at episode 23, and in a minute or so, I will have the pleasure to welcoming my friend Lani Stern from Sotheby's, Canada. He's based in Toronto. He's a great guy, we're going to talk about a lot of really cool things from the real estate market in Canada and Toronto, but also his prior life before being into real estate. Hold on, Lani is here.
There he is. Hold on 1 second. There we go. Look at
Here
you.
I am. Great, sir.
Lani, thank you so much for joining my BT Talks. It's a true pleasure to having you. And you're my first guest from Canada. So that's pretty cool. And Canada is a great country that I really love. So we'll be able to talk about, not only real estate, but life in Canada, in Toronto, who you are for the people who don't know you, how you got into real estate, and all these great things. So,
Fantastic.
Lani, welcome. Please, it would be great that you introduce yourself, your story, and how you're from originally Toronto, but you weren't always in real estate. You got into real estate a few years ago, what you did prior, and we'll take it from there.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah, so yes, born and raised in Toronto, to a big family. So that was always very fun. I always was surrounded by people and I love to be with people. And I think naturally I'd say that I'm a people pleaser. So that's something that sort of is important to who I am. Um, I have a lot of experience in sales in general, although I have to sort of say that I don't really love that word so much. I don't really try to be
I
a
don't like that word either. I think it's too,
yeah.
yeah.
I'm not really a salesperson. I honestly just try to be an information source for my clients. Like I will go through a property, for example, with a buyer, and I'd rather point out the things that they may not see themselves.
But that's why,
Versus,
yeah. I rather always say, we're advisors. As simple as that. It's not, when I see the term real estate salesperson or whatever salesperson, I just don't relate.
Totally agree. 100% agree with you. I mean, yeah. Listen, like I think being an advisor is very important. Where to put your money, where not to put your money, what's going to cost you, what's going to cost you more than you might anticipate, and a lot of these things basically have the ability to snowball, right? So if something's going to cost you $4 to fix the floors, that's great. But then if you're going to move a wall or change this or plumbing, pipes, etc., wiring, those things all start to add up quickly. So just getting a sense of that and comparing it with, what else is. Anyways,
So tell
that's
us
that's my
tell,
story.
tell, tell us your story of getting into real estate, what you did prior to that. I know you work with different luxury brands on the marketing side, and how did all that serve to what you're doing today?
So, yeah, I spent probably somewhere around 4 or 5 years working with a number of different, retail-based brands. Um, my experience, yeah, went from, Club Monaco, Banana Republic, even to the Nikes, a short stint at Apple, and then worked for Louis Vuitton was really where I had sort of ended up. And that was fantastic, and really not to put that down, but I didn't really see the value in helping people spend $800 for a wallet. Or I specifically remember that when I was working there, they were launching the Yeezys, and I was interacting with people that were telling me that like they were spending every penny that they had, so they could eat mac and cheese, but also be wearing their Yeezys. And I'm like, that's fantastic, but I think that I could be doing something more in this world, where I'm helping people my way. So I grew up, my grandparents in Florida were involved in real estate, and I think that it's such an important thing. Everybody has to live somewhere, so you really do have an opportunity to be helpful. And again, I think there's an investment side to it. There's a financial side. There's a costing side. Then there's like this, dreaming, you want this perfect, beautiful family home that everyone, admires. So there's just so many aspects to it that I was always drawn very much to real estate. And so now I've been licensed since 2011 and very active.
So it's been almost 10 years you've been in the business.
Almost 10 years I've been in the business.
Yeah.
You got it.
I'm sure you got to build a lot of great relationships, and you had some incredible experience, which I will ask you also in a few questions in a bit. But tell us a little bit about the real estate market in Toronto and Canada, generally speaking. During COVID, but prior COVID, and what's going on in Canada.
So we can kind of talk macro and then sort of micro,
Sure.
because I think that Canada is faring pretty well right now. And the more micro side of that, the market I work is Toronto, and Toronto I think is really positioned very well. It's always interesting because people talk about how there's this bubble, there's a bubble, when's it going to burst, what prices are going to happen. But the truth of the matter is that Toronto nets, many, many migrants every year. Our population is growing. There are jobs here. We are definitely a hub that large corporations are looking to put businesses. If it's a U.S. company, there are so many advantages for them because
that's what I feel. I feel so Toronto, more specifically, as a big city in Canada, and as one of the major ones, is kind of a smaller New York, but with the Canadian advantages.
With Canadian advantages, totally. I mean, I think that New York is fantastic. My best friend is there. I love going to visit.
I spent half of my life in New York, so yeah.
So you did indeed. I've obviously been following you and your career for a bit. And listen, I think that New York is fantastic, but Toronto presents a lot of advantages to companies because, listen, the Canadian dollar is very inexpensive compared to the US. So if you're a US corporation and earning US dollars and you're paying employees in Canadian dollars, I'll take my 35 cents on the dollar. That sounds pretty good. Also, people here are well educated. There's healthcare.
Yep.
So those are humongous advantages in my opinion.
Mm-hmm.
So and of course, listen, it's clean. We have infrastructure and yes, we have problems like anywhere else. But if you look at the annual guides that people tell you, hey, most livable cities in the world and cleanest, nicest, like all those things, Toronto typically makes the list every time. And in my experience, sometimes they're numbers 1 and 2 on those lists because it's a fabulous place to be. So sort of just to answer what you were saying a little bit on the market, Toronto is I think really poised to still continue to do well. I mean, people, despite the pandemic, predominantly have kept their jobs, and people are pivoting and working from home. And so that means that we're seeing, this change in what people are looking for. So rather than proximity to, downtown working, work-life balance, people are more leaning now towards more house, right? They need to have a home office. They're worried about kids at school. What you're experiencing there too.
Yeah, I think everybody's experiencing that. And again, I think it's a phenomenon that's happening across the US, but also across the world. I mean, even in France, my home country, a lot of people are pivoting and, they're like, oh, we love living in Paris, but, maybe an hour or 2 hours away, we can get a great house and, have a family life and, enjoy more time and more space. So that's a trend. But I do still believe that, the core of the city is important for a lot of people because, city living is very different than suburban, I guess, living, and it's not for everyone. I think we just have to adapt to the new norm of what's happening with this pandemic. And there are changes being made at a different pace in all the cities around the world. But at the same time, it's maybe better that these cities are getting less crowded. So you take the example of like New York, which is a fantastic city, which was, I think, overcrowded. Now, I haven't been in New York since March, but I believe that, that's what I heard from my friends and colleagues and people that are up in New York. It's much calmer. There's people, that are busy and doing different things, but it's a different vibe. And I think in a big city like that, it's much more, much nicer.
Yeah, in some respects, I would agree with you. I think that it is. I think that Toronto's experiencing it in some degree as well right now. But listen, is the city model that we've started to see, the North America sort of trend towards too, and really the whole world trending toward. I don't think that that's going to just up and change dramatically. People now that we're living in 530 square foot condos, I think want more space because they're not coming home after a long day of 10 hours at work.
Of course.
Back in travel. Like now they're eating at home, they're working at home. You need more space. It's different.
I think it's the same thing. I mean, even here in Florida, so we're very lucky. One of the big things here, it's not just the weather, but I think it's the space we have. So we're not all on each other. So yes, the single family home market has been on fire at every price point, and there's a lack of inventory right now. But there's also exceptional condos. And now is actually a really good time. There's some very good deals in condos, but these condos offer a lot of space, with exceptional views and a huge outdoor space. So I think, we're lucky to have the indoor-outdoor lifestyle, that we want. But space, if I could say, is a word that's very important. So whether you're going to live in a big city or you're going to live, outside of the city, space is one of the major things that people are looking for. And then it's a personal preference, some people love to live in a condo, and understand, because you have 24 hours a day, 7 days a week dormant. You have the amenities, even if you use them less, now you can still use them, and relatively it stays clean and all these different things. So I think it's personal then, but then we have to adapt.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely you do. Listen, things will change to some degree. There are still advantages to being in a condo, right? I mean, maybe not in your climate, but mine, it means you don't need a shovel. It means that you don't need to, you're not worried about gardening. I don't own my roof. I don't own, I don't have a leaky basement.
Exactly. Yeah.
Windows probably aren't owned by me either. So the major issues that you could run into, you don't have to deal with those things. So there are certainly still advantages, and we've seen a migration towards the outskirts, but I don't think that it's going to be this, the new normal, that people are going to move out of the city. I mean, people have put down roots, they've got family, they have careers, they have restaurants that they go to, and a local, drug mart, and what do you do on your Saturday mornings? And when you have a lifestyle, I mean, people typically want to keep to that. So, there's more flexibility there today, but I still think that no one's just disappearing from the city.
Do you see a lot of people from other cities or places in Canada moving to Toronto, or even from the US moving to Toronto? Because I think it's a easier place for, say, an American to adapt, and there's opportunities, and it's still, it's one of the world's, best cities. I mean, I don't know it that well, but it's a very attractive city, and it's close to everything. And obviously, like I said at the beginning, Canada as a country has a lot of benefits that, we don't have in the US.
Yeah, I mean, listen, pros and cons, of course, to everything. I certainly think that Toronto's a fantastic place to be. If I didn't think it, I wouldn't be here. And yeah, I mean, I actually have a very strong international reach, with a number of different connections. And so, I've had the pleasure of dealing with a lot of clients that are from other countries or even within Canada, that want to be here. But of late, I mean, certainly the States, particularly surrounding election time, it's not that shocking that people are interested in looking at Canada as an option. And I think that Toronto very closely resembles most of your major cities, right? Toronto's the I think third or fourth largest uh, city in North America, right? So
Yeah, for sure. And
big space.
yeah, for sure. And obviously, there's, I know Canadians, whether they're from Montreal or Toronto, love coming to Florida. But obviously
Sure.
now with the restrictions, it's a little more complicated. But do you see a lot of Canadians, I mean, now it's going to be winter soon. Are they coming down to Florida? Or they're putting everything on hold?
I don't know. This is a really interesting year because, of course, with the pandemic, that's very um, sorry, just had this in my call.
No, no, no worries.
With the pandemic, I think it's yeah. Listen, this is a year of change, right? So instead of people flying down to Florida, that's all well and good, but the problem is once you get back into Canada, you're required to quarantine for 14 days. So heaven forbid something should happen, but if you need to go to the hospital for whatever reason, you're supposed to be in quarantine. And of course, they're capable of managing it, but
Yeah.
it's tough. I mean, what do? You want to order groceries to your door? I mean, there are
Yeah,
ways
we have to adapt to the new normal, I guess. So my next question is, you've been now in the business for almost 10 years. Real estate is an incredible business. I mean, I think we're both in the business for very similar reasons. But it's a question I always like to ask my guests because I think it's very interesting, especially those that are in real estate. What is, with all the different clients you dealt with, what is overall, your best experience? What was the thing that was the most rewarding, I guess, um, in doing a transaction or just generally speaking in the business?
um, it's a tough one. I think honestly, to answer it, it's that I am selfish and I like the feeling of making other people happy. So
Oh,
if
so
someone else
it's
tells
not a bad thing. It's like,
it's
yeah,
true, but the thing is like, listen, that's important, right? And if someone says to me, "Hey, I'm looking for a fantastic house that's a little bit outside of their price range," then maybe there's different ways to find that or to finagle some sort of deal and to negotiate and to point out to the other side that it's missing, these three major characteristics, right? It's doesn't have parking in a enclosed garage, or it doesn't have a powder room or what have you. But for $2.2 million, maybe I can get my clients to the table. So there's always things that I'm able to do in the background that once you're able to finally get that deal and get those people in and they're happy. um,
but it's all about,
maybe,
yeah.
yeah, maybe my answer is the best thing that I like about real estate is being referred, because that really says everything, right? It says that like your clients have been thrilled, they're super happy, and they just closed, and they're immediately sending you their best friends who are singing your praises right away, because that's fun. That's a rewarding part of the business that I really like.
No, it's great. Well, listen, I mean, I know, like if I have anybody for Toronto or even, Canada, I know who to speak to.
Thank you.
So everybody who's listening and who's on the live, if you're looking for property or just to connect with just a great guy, you have Lani right here. You can connect with him easily on Instagram and, all those good things.
Yes, I'm on all of the things. I'm on Instagram, on Facebook, on Twitter. You can
I
get me
think
on
no,
WhatsApp.
we're all connected, and we have to use these platforms. And I think especially with the pandemic that happened, we're more and more connected because I think we're in the people business. So the number one thing, as my friend and top broker Daniel Daggers, he just recently did a post, and it's very simple, but it was very true. The top people in this business love people and like real estate.
Hmm,
And it's true because it's, we love everything about real estate, but we have to first love people and dealing with people in every aspect of it. That's pretty much
for sure.
what it
Fixing
means.
problems, managing it all. I agree 100%. Being in
Uh,
people business is that.
and being patient and understanding the situation. Where we have many hats, if I can say. It's not I try to explain to different people what being a real estate advisor and entrepreneur is and what we do. It's not just selling homes. It's really, doing everything from A to Z to make the transaction smooth, and also building, I always say, lifelong relationships. And that's, I think, your goal, my goal, and the goal of a lot of other, great agents, advisors, is really, building those relationships, and making them lifelong.
I totally agree with you. I mean, listen, the long-term aspect is what's important. And it was always with that mindset that I'll go about my day-to-day, because the plan is that you want to be involved in someone's life long-term.
Yeah.
So I'll go above and beyond whatever it takes so that I'm able to satisfy the client and make sure that they get what they're looking for. And I was able to help them along the way.
Yeah, for sure. So what is a typical day in Lani's life?
A typical day, I'd say normally I'm out showing, I don't know, 3 or 4
But do
clients.
you have like a morning routine or evening routine? I know there's a lot of agents and entrepreneurs, we create our own schedules. So
Totally.
it's very important. Everybody has their own way of doing things. There's no one way of doing things. There's no traditional way of doing things on the personal and professional side. So what is like your day, as you wake up and till the end of the day?
Well, honestly, as far as the professional side anyway, I'll say that, I'm normally waking up, and I'm following up on yesterday's showings for my listings. And I want to get a sense of, how they felt things went, and if they, had any questions for me. Typically, I'll have also spoken with them in the evening if there was anything of interest. And I'm checking out every listing. I'm looking through, off-market, pocket, exclusive listings, whatever you want to call it. I'm normally touring clients around. I'm, grabbing a lunch that my wife made me in a plastic bag, and I'm eating it in my car between showings. And then, I get home, and we deal with whatever issues came up, because we're currently building a house. So we'll check on the house and see what progress happened that day, and if there was anything they need to know.
So now you're living in the city, in the city center, and you're moving out of it.
I'm not moving out. I'm actually moving 2 blocks over. So it's not a very big
Just
transition.
more space.
Just more space. Yeah, we're actually expecting our first, which is really exciting. And thank you. And I think our dog, wanted her own backyard. So that's part of the whole plan now too. So we're really, putting down roots and enjoying ourselves now.
Yeah.
So it's all coming to fruition. But yeah, I mean, it's keeping up with that while writing offers, while managing, offers coming in on my properties, prepping houses that are going to market. So it's really just trying to manage it all as it comes at me.
That's great. And so for those who don't know Toronto, if they're traveling there or even considering moving there, do you have any advice? And also if you could recommend, any places to go to in Toronto, but generally speaking, whether it's travel or moving there, any advice for people considering Toronto?
Yeah, I think what's very cool about Toronto is that it's really a city of different pockets. So people talk about how Toronto is super multicultural, which is definitely true. The thing is, if you're standing in one place, you may not get that entirely, but I'm able to go to little everything. And I mean that. If it's, little China, little Jamaica, little India, little anywhere and everywhere. And for sure, if there's a food group that you're into, there are fantastic restaurants of all price points here. So food is a huge thing in Toronto, in my opinion. And then listen, it's clean. I mean, there are, Saturday mornings, you want to go to, the barns and go and pick up some fresh groceries, or, there are parks every which way you go. In terms of things to do and places to go and see, one of my favorite things is Kensington Market. That's a really fun place that I definitely don't get to go to often enough. But there's just very cool cultural hubs. Really everywhere you go, you can go to King and, Bathurst and walk around and, it's young professionals living their life with really, great restaurants. You can go to mom and pop shops, everywhere. You can go to the Danforth and get great, food or, Greek, whatever it might be. There are cool shopping experiences. There's cool, clothing. There's cool. I think that this city is fantastic. It's definitely a great place to go.
Very cool. And
Yeah.
my last question, I always like to ask this question. Since we're in an entrepreneurial business, it's very important, to keep track of what we do, have a good mindset. And I know a lot of people read books, listen to podcasts or Audible or read these different things. Do you read? Do you have time? Do you take the time to read books, listen to podcasts, Audibles? And if so, do you recommend any? Yeah, do you do so or not?
I mean, absolutely. I think that you have to do that. I definitely enjoy that. I really enjoy conversing.
Yeah,
So part of, what's been amazing for me is having coaching.
yeah. Coaching is
And
very important. Yeah,
coaching to me has really elevated my business acumen, my ability to problem solve, to help people to understand things through a different mindset that really is more future thinking. I love technology. I've always, in terms of my daily readings, I'm always up on Inman, if anyone's familiar with
of
that for
course.
real
I am as
estate.
well. It's very good.
Totally. I've been to a number of their conferences and had a number of my friends that were actually speakers there, which is cool. Sotheby's also puts out, interesting product, and obviously I always want to keep up with the international reach that they have. So there are so many different avenues for me, but I never really find myself just diving into a book. I don't know. It just never
It's just so
really.
you're pretty much, I mean, obviously we get a lot of information, but you get some information from different sources here and there, and you just feed your mind like that, which is great, I think.
100%. Yeah, because to be honest, I don't want to be the one track mind where I'm just, taking the single perspective. Because my clients really come from all walks, and so it's trying to be able to understand from someone else's perspective and being able to help them in their situation, because ultimately that's what someone's hiring me to do. So
For sure.
as my sister
I
commented,
see
that I'm the most positive
that.
guy, right? So
She's very
I
sweet.
she is very sweet and very supportive,
Yeah,
and excellent in her own right at what she does and helping people, see the positivity. So,
well, it's
um,
good. It's good to have people, whether it's family or friends, but that are supportive and really understand what you're doing and keep in touch, whether it's a call or a text or anything. I think it makes a big difference.
100%.
You know,
Yeah, just the human aspect, I think, is not to be overlooked.
for sure. And just the sensibility we each have with each other. That is something I was actually discussing with a good friend of mine and colleague in New York. And, he's a little older than me and he was actually on my BT Talks. He's a great, great guy, David Dubin. So if David Dubin is listening, but it's really, the sensibility we have with each other, whether it's with clients, whether it's with colleagues, whether it's with family and friends, is in today's world so important.
100%. Honestly, I'm extremely lucky in that my friends and family, were a very big aspect of starting my career, which I suppose is really nothing to be ashamed of. And honestly, today my reach is so much larger because those friends and family have referred me to their friends and family and their friends and family
That's
and their sisters,
that's
uncles, and it's
that
crazy.
yeah, that's what it's all about. It's really about that. Well, Lani, thank you so much. I think we had a great conversation. I really appreciate your time. Everybody who tuned in or everybody who will watch this a little later, you should definitely connect with Lani, even just to say hello. But for
Please.
all advice in real estate in Toronto and Canada, he's your guy. Or if you know someone who is looking for a property, whether it's, you know, renting, buying, selling, Lani is your guy. Always remember that, you know, in real estate, you know, we're not just doing transactions. We're also here from A to Z to support you in any way. We are advisors. And, you know, if I refer someone I have 300% trust in, and the same thing with Lani, we always refer. We both have an international network. And it's very, very important to, especially in the service business, to work with the right people, with good people also, you know. So Lani, thank you so much for being a great guest. Thank you to everyone who tuned in, and wishing everyone a great day. Thank you.
Thanks, Ben. Take care. Thanks,
Thank
guys,
you.
for joining.
Bye.